to Bed Lullaby, a place where we slow down, where we listen, and where sleep gently begins to find us. I'm Davis, your host tonight, and I'm truly glad you've joined me. Tonight, as you listen, you're not just relaxing, you're also learning gently, naturally, because what we listen to becomes what we speak. Every word is like a soft step toward peaceful rest and better English. Now, let's step into a quiet family workshop, a space where Persian-style carpets are lovingly made, each one woven with such rich, intricate detail. It almost feels like a little bit of magic lives within them. Let this moment be your gentle pause, your soft transition from day into night. Let your jaw relax, your shoulders melt, and your breath become slow and easy. Relax your jaw, let your hands rest, and soften your shoulders. This is your time to simply be, to welcome stillness and let the day drift away. The busy thinking, the endless solving, can start to slow down now, as if someone's flicking off a light beside your bed. And that's exactly what you can do now, for your mind and for your body. Take a deep, coming breath in, and let it out slowly. Feel any tension begin to melt away. Let's take another deep breath together. In through the nose, and gently out through the mouth. Now once more, filling the lungs fully, and then exhaling, watching your body sink deeper into comfort as you drift closer and closer to the land of dreams. Now that your mind and your body are beginning to settle into stillness, let's invite your imagination to gently awaken. Picture a home crafted from warm mud brick, nestled quietly in the heart of an ancient city. The air here is dry, the sun still warm from the day, and the color of the walls blends gently into the land. A deep, earthy red-brown. On the lower floor, you'll find a space that's both a workshop and a store. Peeking through the windows, you'll see carpets stacked high, vibrant, intricate, full of life and color. This is the place where Idris lives, alongside his family, a place where they work and where they share their days. Let's step inside now, together, as our story slowly begins to unfold. Long ago, in a faraway city, there lived a young boy named Idris. Most of his days were spent in school, and the hours that remained, he shared with his family and his friends. After class, Idris would wander the winding city streets, alongside his companions, exploring shaded alleyways, strolling through colorful markets, or playing ball in the soft, dusty town square. Then, when the golden sun dipped beneath the rooftops, he would return home to the large mud brick house he shared with his extended family. Up at the very top was the bedroom he shared with his two older brothers, and down below lived his parents, his aunt, and his gentle grandparents. The heart of the home, the space where most time was spent, lay on the ground floor. It was more than a living space. It was their workshop, their store, and a place of tradition. For generations, Idris's family had been known across the city for creating and selling some of the most exquisite carpets ever woven. Travelers came from distant places to place special orders, to select a design from the stunning collection on display. Each piece was a marvel in itself. Some were small prayer rugs, with gentle greens and glowing golds. Others hung proudly on the walls, rich scarlet backgrounds with swirling metallic threads that caught the light like glimmers of fire. And at the back of the shop, rolled tightly and resting in stacks, were the largest, most luxurious carpets, too grand to be laid out in full. But when unrolled, they revealed mesmerizing floral patterns, layers upon layers of nested beauty. Whenever Idris came home, he'd always begin by stepping softly through the carpet shop. He'd greet his aunt warmly at the counter, her smile a gentle welcome after a long day. Then he'd continue, slowly making his way through the colorful forest of rugs, each one whispering a quiet story as he passed. At the far end of the shop, on a curtain made of shimmering beads, he loved how they felt, cool and playful against his skin, and how their gentle music followed him with each step. Just beyond that curtain was the workshop. It was here that his parents and older brothers were seated at their looms, completely absorbed in their work. Their focus was so deep, it felt as though a quiet spell had been cast across the room. Idris never wanted to disturb that spell. He would simply stand nearby, watching with admiration, his eyes tracing the delicate dance of their fingers through the threads. At that very moment, the family was deep in the process of weaving 2 grand carpets, special commissions from a wealthy merchant in a nearby city. The work would take months, every knot carefully placed by hand, every pattern guided by patience. Idris's parents sat side by side at one loom, while his brothers worked together at another, cross-legged on cushions, fingers moving with quiet purpose. Their hands moved so gracefully, darting between strands of wool like musicians playing a soft, string tune. It mesmerized Idris. He tried it himself before, sitting at the loom, guided lovingly by his parents, his grandparents, even his brothers. But deep down, he understood. This craft wasn't his path. His fingers never quite moved with the same ease, the same rhythm, and that was okay. Idris had begun to accept. He likely wouldn't grow up to be a carpet weaver. His path would take a different shape, though for now, it remained soft and shifting like footprints in sand. Some days, he imagined himself as a traveling merchant, riding horseback over distant hills, through cities and deserts. Other days, he saw himself as an astronomer, studying the stars and searching the skies for secrets. And sometimes, he pictured himself staying right here, working in the family shop, helping to sell the carpets that carried his family story. That felt like a good life too. A life close to the people he loved, and the home that held his roots. The future still felt far away. There was time, plenty of time, to discover where his heart would lead. For now, he was simply content to drift through the house, one peaceful room at a time, until dinner called him home. That evening, his grandmother was in the kitchen, carefully preparing his favorite rice dish, fragrant with spices and brimming with tender vegetables, as delicious scents filled the air. and his parents and brothers wrapped up their days weaving. Idris once again slipped through the bead curtain, its gentle clinks echoing softly behind him. He wandered slowly through the shop, moving between rows of neatly stacked carpets. His fingertips drifted across the fabric, tracing the gentle contours of each design. There were so many, each more beautiful than the last. A gallery of color and story, waiting quietly in the dusk. He loved the way the soft wool felt beneath his fingers, how the patterns seemed to invite him inward. His touch would follow the curves, starting at the edges, spiraling inward to the center, like a slow, thoughtful journey. Sometimes, he imagined that different colors held different textures, even though each was made from the same wool, dyed with berries, roots, and natural earth. Crimson felt bold and warm, indigo deep and quiet, as his fingers brushed over petals and vines. He sensed small differences, subtle shifts, like the way a soft breeze can change on your skin, cool, then warm, like the breath of evening. There was something quietly magical about these carpets, but one carpet always held his gaze longer than the rest. It hung proudly on the back wall, a grand, rectangular masterpiece. Its base was a deep, velvety burgundy, so rich it looked like crushed velvet, yet glowing with 1,000 colors: emerald, saffron, and delicate touches of silver, gold, and soft, pearlescent white, as if moonlight itself had been woven through the threads. At the heart of the rug was the tree of life, radiant, golden, its branches full of shining fruit, and in each corner sat a tiny, walled garden, each one brimming with detail and peaceful mystery. What Idris found most enchanting was how each of the 4 gardens, though seemingly the same at first glance, held their own quiet secrets. From a distance, they looked like perfect mirrors, each one centered around a small, bubbling fountain, symmetrical, serene. But up close, little differences would begin to appear, like whispers tucked into each corner. One garden was filled with fig trees, another with branches heavy with pomegranates, and one, goats rested peacefully beneath the trees. In another, elegant peacocks strutted through the grass. Even the grass itself told a different story in each space. Golden stripes in one corner, soft silver ripples in the next, like moonlit waves frozen in fabric. As a young boy, Idris could spend what felt like hours gazing at that carpet, his eyes drifting slowly from one garden to the next. He would often wonder which corner he loved most, and sometimes he imagined himself grown up, living in a garden of his own, a place with a peaceful fountain, bright peacocks, and pomegranate trees bursting with fruit. Those dreams never really left him. Even as he grew older, he still found himself returning to that carpet, again and again. But now, his thoughts lingered less on the gardens themselves, and more on the hands that had woven them. The story passed down in his family told of a woman who had once dreamed of these gardens. Idris's great-grandmother, a gifted weaver, had brought the entire piece to life, inspired by a vision that had come to her one night. She had created the entire masterpiece, on her own. In just a few short months, Idris had never met her, but standing before her carpet, he felt a quiet connection. He hadn't inherited her gift for weaving, but in his heart, he felt deeply proud, knowing her blood, her vision, her beauty lived on in him too. This particular rug was not for sale. Unlike the others that waited patiently for new homes, this one remained right here, a family treasure cherished beyond words. No amount of gold could buy it, even if the wealthiest traveler offered a chest of shining coins. The answer would always be no, and Idris found comfort in that, knowing this one beautiful thing would always stay with them. It would always be there, hanging on the back wall, quiet and glowing, for him to visit, to wonder, and to dream. Later that night, after the rest of the house had slipped into sleep, Idris lay quietly in his bed, his body still, his thoughts soft and slow. Faint images from the day drifted gently across his mind. The laughter he'd shared in the town square, the warm sun drying freshly dyed wool, and those glowing garden corners woven into his great-grandmother's carpet. Though sleep hadn't yet arrived, he was at peace, content to lie there and simply let the quiet hold him. The room around him was hushed, except for the soft, steady rhythm of his brother's gentle snores and the distant, echoing call of a night bird somewhere beyond the window. It almost felt as if that bird was the only other soul still awake. On nights like this, when sleep moved slowly, Idris sometimes liked to slip quietly from his bed. He would tiptoe through the still house and make his way up to the rooftop terrace, just to breathe in the night air, cool and clear, to let his thoughts wander freely. That little ritual always helped soothe him, settle him, and welcome sleep when he returned. Tonight felt like one of those nights. And so, after resting still for a little while longer, Idris quietly slipped out of bed. He lit a single candle, slid into a soft pair of slippers, and padded gently across the floor, careful not to wake his brothers. Down the stairs he went, his steps slow and silent, until he stood once more in the dim, moonlit hush of the carpet shop. The shop felt different at night, still, hushed, almost sacred, like a temple where stories sleep. No voices, no footsteps, just the soft flicker of candlelight in his hand, and the moon's gentle glow streaming in through a high window above. The light draped over the stacks of carpets, casting silver-edged shadows that danced slowly, like ripples on water. Idris smiled to himself, imagining the moon was moving gently, too, quietly honoring the silence of the hour, just like he was. In just a few minutes, he planned to step outside. The night air was warm, and he longed to feel the soft rooftop breeze. But first, he allowed himself one more moment to admire the garden carpet, still hanging on the back wall, quiet and glowing in the moonlight. There was something special about being alone with it now. No customers, no voices, just him, and the quiet hum of memory had magic. Time seemed to pause, everything around him perfectly still. In the soft candlelight, the carpet's colors shimmered differently, subtle shifts and hazy glows, as though the patterns were gently breathing. And then, something strange. For a fleeting moment, Idris thought he saw the carpet ripple, a delicate wave, as if touched by a breeze. But the air was still. The window was shut. He blinked, rubbed his eyes softly. It must be a dream, he whispered to himself. But when he looked again, there it was. Clearer this time, undeniable. The carpet was moving, not just fluttering, but lifting, rising gently from the wall, its heavy form floating softly in midair. It hovered, suspended like a dream, as though it were weightless. Idris froze in place, his breath caught, his heart full of wonder. He reached out with slow hands and let his fingertips brush the surface. It was warm, soft, familiar, and real. The carpet was flying. It moved gracefully forward, gliding without sound toward the stairs. It didn't rush. It simply floated, with the gentle rhythm of a drifting cloud. It reminded Idris of a great butterfly, or some silent sea creature, swimming through the air, even though it wasn't alive. Something about its movement felt full of quiet purpose. It was waiting, guiding, and without thinking, Idris followed, still wrapped in the soft haze of wonder. He moved step by step behind the glowing rug. Together, they climbed the stairs, rising toward the night sky. At last, they reached the rooftop terrace. Above them, the sky stretched wide and still, a quiet sea of stars. On any other night, Idris might have paused to admire the constellations. But tonight, his eyes remained fixed on the carpet. It hovered there, suspended in the warm night air, its surface shimmering where moonlight touched it. Some of the threads sparkled like scattered stars, casting a soft glow across the rooftop. It looked enchanted. It felt like a page from one of the old bedtime stories his mother used to whisper when he was small. Tales of fairies, talking animals, and flying carpets that carried dreamers through the skies. He had dreamed of such things before, but never like this. To see it, to feel it, was something entirely different. A quiet joy swelled inside him, a soft, radiant joy, even if it was only a dream. What a beautiful dream to have. But somehow, it didn't feel like dreaming at all. When the carpet slowly unrolled before him, a graceful, silent gesture, Idris didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, his feet light on the soft surface, and sat down, right in the center, on the golden threads of the tree of life. He crossed his legs, let his shoulders soften, and gently rested his hands on the velvety fabric. He didn't say a word, but somehow, the carpet understood. He was ready, and the carpet responded. Without a whisper of sound, it began to lift, rising softly from the terrace floor. up, smooth and steady, like a feather caught on the night breeze, until they were floating, truly floating, above the rooftops of the sleeping city. And then it settled in. Idris realized he was flying, truly, gently flying. The carpet glided through the sky with quiet confidence, as though it had done this many times before. He looked around in amazement, peeking softly over the edge. Below him, the city stretched out like a sleeping painting, rooftops and winding streets bathed in moonlight. It felt as if he were riding on the back of a great bird, or perhaps a creature from myth, graceful and kind. The way it moved, so smooth, so fluid. Idris could almost believe it was alive. It floated with the grace of something breathing, something that knew exactly where it was going. And somehow, Idris felt completely at ease, safe, held, as if the night itself was wrapping gently around him. He belonged here, in the quiet sky. As the magical carpet drifted onward, Idris let his gaze fall softly below. The streets he knew so well looked different from above, familiar but distant, like memories floating in a dream. Everything was hushed. Each home lay still, darkened in peaceful sleep. Only a few lanterns glowed faintly, like fireflies tucked along quiet alleys. Now and then, a candle shimmered in a window, its light barely dancing. The moonlight didn't sharpen things. It softened them, blanketing the world below in a gentle, silvery sheen. The rooftops shimmered faintly, as if brushed by quiet hands of light, gleaming like ancient metal polished under stars. Idris imagined that each night after midnight, the moon wandered through the sky in silence, touching every rooftop in turn. A secret ritual, blessing the sleeping city with light and calm. He smiled, a quiet, private smile. To be here, to see this secret beauty with his own eyes. It felt like a gift. The stillness, the silver light, the hush of the hour, and the soft wind brushing past his face. He was the only soul awake to witness it, or so he thought. But then, as the carpet drifted eastward, gliding gently toward the slow, winding river, Idris noticed something. A light, a small movement, and he realized he wasn't the only one awake after all. By the river's edge stood the city's great university. Its tall brick tower rose into the stars, quiet and dignified, and at the very top, Idris saw him, a man standing by a long telescope, gazing into the night sky. Idris had heard stories of astronomers in his city, but he had never seen one in this moment of work. Not until now. It felt like discovering a secret, a gentle, beautiful truth unfolding before him. What surprised him most was how young the man appeared. He wasn't cloaked in flowing robes, nor did he carry the look of a wise, old storyteller. He looked ordinary, familiar even, like someone who might have passed Idris in the street, or shared a smile at the marketplace. He could have been one of Idris's older cousins. Just then, The young astronomer stepped back from the telescope and looked up. His gaze lifted straight into the sky, and there, hovering quietly before him, was Idris and the floating carpet. Their eyes met. For a long, still moment, neither of them moved. They simply stared, each wrapped in wonder. Two strangers, bound by a single magical moment. Idris slowly raised his hand, offering a soft wave, and after a pause, the man returned it. A small, unsure wave, as if he too was wondering, is this a dream? Then, just as gently as before, the carpet resumed its flight, gliding quietly along, tracing the path of the river like a whisper. And in the silence that followed, Idris let out a soft breath, relaxing even deeper, his body becoming loose, his thoughts floating like clouds. The air around him was still, soft as silk, and the carpet's steady rhythm lulled him deeper into calm. He let his body relax completely, back sinking into the thick woolen threads beneath him, arms resting loosely by his sides, shoulders melting with every breath. The sky stretched above, a vast, star-speckled sea, quiet, endless, as if the stars themselves were watching him drift. He gazed upward. No telescope needed, just wonder in his eyes. Each star, so distant, yet their light had traveled all this way to meet him here, above rooftops, above the world. He felt as though he were floating among them, carried gently on the breeze, like a leaf in moonlight. The air brushed softly over his skin, cool, refreshing, slipping through his sleeves and hair, like water in a dream. It smelled of riverbanks and starlit trees, a quiet blend of dust, of earth, and the sweetness of gardens below. He breathed it in slowly, and let it out even slower. Relax your jaw. Let your hands fall gently open. Soften your belly. Release your neck. Each breath guided him closer to stillness. The carpet moved with grace, its motion smooth and natural, cradling him like a lullaby. Up here, his body weightless, his mind untroubled. He could have fallen asleep right there, beneath the sky's watchful eye. As he lay there, eyes half closed, thoughts drifting like mist across the stars, the carpet seemed to respond, turning softly, beginning its gentle journey back. It didn't ask, it simply knew. Beneath him, familiar rooftops began to reappear. Rounded domes, narrow alleys, the quiet temple, the square where he played in the afternoon sun, all wrapped in silver, all sleeping peacefully beneath the moon. Soon, he could see his own rooftop terrace, the very place where this wonder had begun. The carpet floated down, slowly, steadily, as if not to wake the earth. The landing was so smooth, Idris hardly felt the moment his body touched the rooftop again. He sat up slowly, took one last look at the sky, then stepped gently onto solid ground. Behind him, the carpet hovered for just a moment longer, then followed, gliding softly beside him, like a faithful shadow. Together, They moved through the sleeping house, past closed doors and whispered dreams, back to the room, where his brothers still breathed in soft unison. He stepped quietly into his room, the air cool and still. His bed waited, blankets slightly rumpled, pillow welcoming and warm. The carpet glided in behind him, then slowly came to rest beside the bed, its edges settling like a sigh. Idris smiled to himself, a sleepy, satisfied smile. It looked as though the carpet was relaxing too, stretching out, sinking gently into the quiet of the room. He pulled the blanket over his shoulders, adjusted his pillow, and let his body melt into the mattress. Beside him, the carpet shifted just slightly, a soft ripple moving across its surface, as if it too were breathing, inhaling slowly and exhaling with calm, just like Idris now. Breathe in deeply and let it go. Let your body soften. Feel your hands relax, your face go smooth and gentle, your chest rising and falling like a lullaby. He closed his eyes, and in the hush that followed, he drifted away, into stars, into wind, into the quiet memory of a moonlit, magical flight.